there was many men that did go to their death by hanging once they had been sentenced to death by a judge. The gallows that they used on this location here certainly wasn't anything like what you've seen perhaps in some of the Western movies. So it wasn't this 10-foot structure that you walked up the steps. You didn't stand up on a box. They didn't tie a rope around your neck. The executioner did not pull a little lever. You didn't drop down. Your neck didn't snap, and that was the end of you. It wasn't anything like that. In fact, the gallows here on this ground were kind of crudely constructed. Pretty much it consisted of two poles, or two posts, about 7 feet high, and then a post that would go across it. They would then tie a rope around that upper post. They would bring in a horse and cart. They would stand you on top of the cart. They would then tie the rope around your neck, tighten it up, whack the horse on the back end, the horse would take off. Hopefully you'd come off of the back of that wagon, there'd be enough velocity there to snap your neck and you would die instantly. One of the last hangings to take place here was in 1852. That gentleman's name was Yankee Jim Robinson. He had been arrested with 2 other culprits for stealing a rowboat out in the bay. Now, his cohorts only got a year in jail. However, Yankee Jim didn't fare quite as well. He had been recognized on some wanted posters for other crimes that he had committed throughout California. So the judge had taken this all into account, and he decided that Yankee Jim should hang for it. Now, back in the 1800s, men were not very tall at all. They were about my height, about 5'3". Every now and then, a guy would be lucky enough to be 5'5". So certainly that 7-foot post would certainly do the job. However, Yankee Jim was not 5'3", nor was he 5'5". Yankee Jim was 6'4". They had not taken this into account. So on the day of his execution, they stood him up on the wagon. They gave him a few minutes to say his piece. They whacked the horse on the back end. The horse took off. Yankee Jim came swinging off that wagon. However, Yankee Jim's feet were just now barely touching the ground. So there wasn't enough velocity. It didn't snap his neck. It didn't kill him instantly. Instead, Yankee Jim, with his hands tied behind his back, swung back and forth very violently, like a pendulum swinging up and down because he couldn't catch his breath. He was slowly strangling himself to death because there wasn't enough force on the rope. So Yankee Jim swung there. There were 2 newspapers covering the hanging that day. One newspaper indicated that it took Yankee Jim about 20 minutes to die. The other newspaper indicated that it took Jim 40 minutes to die. 20 minutes or 40 minutes certainly doesn't make any difference. It's just as gruesome a hanging as can be. So he did struggle until he died. Just a few years after that hanging, Thomas Whaley, in fact, Thomas Whaley was here for that hanging that day in 1852. The county now had this plot of land, which was pretty much all barren wasteland. There wasn't anything here. It was all dirt and rock. In any case, they had the area up for sale, and it was at a pretty good price, so Mr. Whaley went ahead and he bought the land. He was not a superstitious man at all, so he felt that any of the men who had gone to their deaths, including Yankee Jim, would have absolutely no effect on him whatsoever. Later, would he realize how much different that would be. Originally, Mr. Whaley had built this room to be a granary. He had a brick making company not far from here, just a few blocks from here. So he built this room to be a granary. He felt that because it was made of bricks that mice and rats would not get into the room. However, that didn't quite work out that way. Long about 1854 or so, the county courthouse that was in the Old Town area had burned down, and so they didn't have any place to hold their courtroom. So in 1856, he went ahead and redesigned this room to become the courthouse, as you see here. Now, it stayed this way for just a few years. So Mr. Whaley was now making money off of receiving rent every month for this room. In 1857, that's when Mr. Whaley had taken on a business partner, Mr. Crosswaith. They then established their general store right next door. So the door that you just came through, that was not here. This was this was one solid wall. So the only way in and out of this courtroom was through this door here. In 1857, the general store would be established, and then the family living quarters would then be established up on the second floor. So it is Yankee Jim's spirit that still remains here in the house. So as you go through the house, kind of be aware of perhaps what you're feeling, especially around your neck. We have had people that for the 20-minute tour or so, that their neck becomes kind of red. It doesn't last very long. There's no harm done after that. All of the spirits that you might encounter here in the house, they're not evil spirits, but they do like to play around every now and then. Some people also feel that it's kind of hard to breathe as they go through some of the rooms, or that their neck is kind of being elongated. They get that feeling because that's that rope feeling that Yankee Jim would have felt as he slowly strangled to death. We'll now head into the general store.